I spent 3 years doing gardening the hard way before someone finally told me I was being an idiot. I was hand watering everything twice a day, spending hundreds on fertilizer, replanting the same crops every single year, buying new tools constantly, and losing about 40% of my plants to pests and disease. Then my neighbor, this 70-year-old woman who barely lifts a finger in her garden, showed me what she was doing. Her garden looked better than mine, produced 3 times more food, and she spent maybe 2 hours a week on it. Maybe. She walked me through her setup, and I realized I'd been doing almost everything wrong. Not because I didn't know how to garden, but because nobody tells you the shortcuts that actually work. In the next 12 minutes, I'm showing you the hacks that save the most time, the most money, and the most back-breaking effort. These aren't cute Pinterest tricks. These are the methods that separate people who struggle with gardening from people who make it look effortless. Some of these you'll wish you'd known years ago. I know I do. Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Garden Fix. If you're spending more time, money, and effort on your garden than you should be, this is for you. I'm not giving you 20 tiny tips that barely make a difference. I'm showing you the big hacks, the ones that fundamentally change how much work gardening requires. Hit that subscribe button because we put out practical gardening content every week that cuts through the nonsense and shows you what actually works. Smash that like button if you're tired of gardening feeling like a second job. Here's how this works. I'm breaking these into 3 categories: time savers that give you hours back, money savers that stop you from wasting cash, and effort reducers that save your back and knees. Let's start with time because that's what most people run out of first. The watering revelation. Here's what nobody tells you about watering. You're doing it too often and at the wrong time, and it's costing you hours every week. My neighbor showed me her setup. Soaker hoses buried under 2 inches of mulch connected to a timer. She sets it to water deep once every 3 days instead of shallow every day. That's it. Deep watering encourages roots to grow down instead of staying shallow. Shallow roots need constant watering. Deep roots can handle drought. She spends 0 time watering. I was spending an hour a day. The setup cost her maybe $60 5 years ago, still using the same hoses. Meanwhile, I was standing there with a hose wand like a sucker every single morning and evening. Here's the actual hack. Stop watering the top of the soil. Water deep, water less frequently, automate it, and mulch heavy so moisture doesn't evaporate. You just saved yourself 5 to 7 hours per week. The succession planting nobody explains properly. Most people plant everything at once, harvest everything at once, then have nothing for months. That's the hard way. The hack is planting small amounts every 2 weeks. Not everything, just fast-growing crops like lettuce, radishes, beans, greens. Instead of 50 lettuce plants all maturing in the same week, you're planting 10 every 2 weeks for 10 weeks. Now you have fresh lettuce for the entire growing season instead of way too much for 1 week. This saves time because you're not overwhelmed with processing and preserving massive harvests all at once. You're picking dinner portions continuously. Way less work. The mulch hack that eliminates 80% of your garden maintenance. Mulch isn't just for decoration. Done right, it eliminates most of your garden work. 4 to 6 inches of wood chips, shredded leaves, or straw on top of your soil does 3 things. Stops weeds from germinating, holds moisture so you water less, and feeds the soil as it breaks down. I was spending hours every week pulling weeds and watering constantly. My neighbor mulched heavy once per year and barely touched her garden otherwise. Her soil got better every year. Mine stayed mediocre. Here's the real hack. Get mulch for free. Call tree service companies and ask if they'll deliver wood chips. Most will dump a truckload for free because otherwise they pay to dispose of it. You just saved $200 and 10 hours of weeding per month. The plant it once, harvest forever strategy. Annual crops are a time trap. Plant, grow, harvest, start over every single year. The hack is perennials. Asparagus, rhubarb, perennial herbs, walking onions, Egyptian onions, berry bushes, fruit trees. Plant once, harvest for years or decades. I was replanting tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers every spring. Took hours of work. My neighbor had asparagus beds producing for 15 years, herb patches she planted once and forgot about, berry bushes pumping out fruit with zero maintenance. You don't replace annuals entirely, but every perennial you add is time you're not spending replanting, starting seedlings, hardening off seedlings. The time savings compound over years. We just saved you about 15 hours per week. Now let's talk about money, because most people are bleeding cash on things they don't need. Stay with me. The fertilizer scam you're falling for. Walk into any garden center and they'll sell you specialized fertilizer for tomatoes, roses, vegetables, flowers, lawns, all different formulas, all expensive. Here's what my neighbor told me. It's mostly marketing. Plants need nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. The ratios matter more than the brand or the specialty label. The real hack is stop buying fertilizer entirely. Compost gives you everything those bags provide. Plus, it improves soil structure, holds moisture, and feeds beneficial organisms. You can't buy that in a bottle. I was spending $300 per year on fertilizer. My neighbor spent zero. Her plants looked better because her soil was actually healthy, not just artificially fed. Start composting your kitchen scraps and yard waste. You're turning garbage into the best fertilizer that exists, for free. If you need a quick boost, get a soil test and add only what's actually deficient. Stop guessing and stop buying every specialty blend.
The seed buying trap. Most gardeners buy new seeds every year. Packets that cost $3 to $5 each add up fast when you're planting a full garden. Here's the hack. Save seeds from what you grow. Not everything, hybrids don't breed true, but heirloom and open-pollinated varieties do. Tomatoes, peppers, beans, peas, lettuce, herbs. Let a few plants go to seed. Collect them, store them in a cool, dry place. One packet of seeds can become infinite seeds. I was spending $150 per year on seeds. My neighbor spent maybe $20 on a few new varieties she wanted to try. Everything else she saved. And here's the bonus. Saved seeds are adapted to your specific growing conditions. They get better over time. The tool investment that pays itself immediately. Most people buy cheap tools that break after one season, then buy replacements. Or they buy every specialized tool the garden center sells. The hack is buying quality versions of essential tools and skipping everything else. You need a good spade, a digging fork, a hoe, hand pruners, and a quality hose. That's it. Everything else is optional. I had a shed full of tools I used once. My neighbor had 5 tools she'd owned for 20 years. Guess whose garden was more productive? The specific hack: buy professional-grade tools used. Landscapers and farmers sell equipment when they upgrade. You can get tools that last a lifetime for half the price of cheap new ones that break. The container gardening money pit. If you're buying decorative pots and planters, you're wasting money. Those fancy ceramic pots cost $30 to $100 each, and plants don't care about aesthetics. The hack? Free containers are everywhere. 5-gallon buckets from restaurants and bakeries, old storage bins, wooden crates, even grow bags made from old feed sacks. Drill drainage holes and you have a functional container for free. I was spending hundreds on pots. My neighbor's container garden was flourishing in buckets she got from a donut shop. Plants care about drainage and root space. Nothing else matters. The vertical growing space multiplier. Everyone wants raised beds, but lumber is expensive. A 4x8 raised bed built from new boards costs $150 to $200. The hack? Urbanite, broken concrete from sidewalks, driveways, demolition sites. People give it away free on Craigslist because otherwise they pay for disposal. Stack it like stones to create raised beds for zero cost. It absorbs heat during the day and releases it at night, extending your growing season. It lasts forever, and it's free. My neighbor built 6 raised beds for the cost of renting a truck twice. They've been producing for 8 years. All right, we just saved you hundreds of dollars per year.
Now the effort reducers. These are the hacks that save your back, your knees, and your sanity. Keep watching. The no-dig gardening revolution. Tilling and digging destroy soil structure, kill beneficial organisms, and create more weed problems. And it's back-breaking work. The hack? Stop digging entirely. No-dig gardening means you layer compost and mulch on top of the soil and let worms and microbes do the work. You're building soil up instead of destroying it by digging. I was spending entire weekends double digging beds. My neighbor hadn't touched a shovel in 5 years. Her soil was fluffy, rich, and full of worms. Mine was compacted and dead. To start a no-dig bed, lay cardboard over grass or weeds, pile 6 inches of compost on top, plant directly into the compost. Next year, add more compost. The cardboard smothers weeds, breaks down, and feeds soil life. You just eliminated 90% of the physical labor in gardening. The weeding hack that ends the nightmare. Most people spend hours on their knees pulling weeds. That's because they're letting weeds go to seed and creating next year's problem. The hack? Never let weeds flower. Ever. Walk through your garden once a week with a hoe. Scrape any small weeds at the soil surface before they establish. Takes 10 minutes instead of hours of hand-pulling later. And here's the real secret. The first year you do this religiously, you're fighting the weed seed bank in your soil. Every year after gets easier because you're not adding more seeds. My neighbor walks her garden every Sunday morning with a hoe. Takes 15 minutes. No weeds survive to seed. Her garden looks pristine year-round. I was spending hours per week pulling established weeds that had already dropped thousands of seeds for next year. I was creating my own problem. The vertical growing space multiplier. Most gardeners use maybe 20% of their available growing space because they're only thinking horizontally. The hack is growing vertically and reclaim hours of maintenance time while increasing production. Cucumbers, tomatoes, pole beans, peas, squash. Anything that vines can grow up instead of sprawling on the ground. When plants grow up, you're not dealing with ground rot, you're not fighting slugs, and harvesting is easier because you're not bending over. Simple cattle panel trellises cost $20 and last 20 years. Lean them against anything, fences, walls, posts. Plants climb, production doubles, maintenance drops. My neighbor grew more food in less space with less work because everything that could climb was climbing. I was letting vining plants sprawl across 100 square feet of ground. Hers went up 10 feet and took up 5 square feet. The self-watering container setup. If you're hand-watering containers, you're doing it wrong. Containers dry out fast. You're watering daily, sometimes twice daily in summer. The hack? Self-watering containers. Build them once, forget about them. Put a water reservoir at the bottom of the container. The soil wicks moisture up as plants need it. You fill the reservoir once a week instead of watering daily. You can buy self-watering containers or make them from 2 buckets, a wicking cup, and a fill tube. Costs $5 per container to DIY. I was dragging hoses around watering 50 containers every morning and evening. My neighbor filled her reservoirs every Sunday. Her plants were healthier because they had consistent moisture instead of the wet-dry cycle I was creating. The companion planting pest control. Most people fight pests with sprays, traps, and constant vigilance. That's the hard way. The hack is let plants do the pest control for you. Basil repels aphids and whiteflies. Plant it near tomatoes and peppers. Marigolds repel beetles. Plant them everywhere. Nasturtiums are aphid magnets. They draw aphids away from vegetables you actually care about. I was spending hours inspecting plants, hand-picking pests, spraying organic pesticides. My neighbor planted strategically and barely had pest problems. The effort saved isn't just in pest control, it's in not losing plants. When you lose plants to pests, you're replanting, starting over, wasting everything you put into that plant. Companion planting prevents that loss. So, there you have it, the hacks that actually move the needle on time, money, and effort. These aren't cute tricks. These are fundamental changes to how you garden that make it sustainable instead of exhausting. I spent 3 years doing it the hard way before my neighbor showed me this stuff. My garden looked okay. Hers looked incredible with a fraction of the work. The difference wasn't talent or experience. It was knowing which shortcuts actually work. Here's what I want you to do. Pick 3 hacks from this video. Just 3. Implement them this season. See what happens. Maybe it's automating your watering, starting a compost pile, and switching to no-dig beds. Maybe it's saving seeds, mulching heavy, and growing vertically. Whatever combination makes sense for your situation. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight, but every hack you implement is time, money, and effort you're getting back. If this changed how you think about gardening, smash that like button and subscribe to Daily Garden Fix. Hit that notification bell because we're putting out practical content like this every week. Drop a comment and tell me which hack you're trying first, or tell me a hack I missed. I'm always learning from this community. Check the description for links to supplies and more detailed guides on some of these methods. Thanks for watching. Now go make your garden easier instead of harder. I'll see you in the next one.